Hey everybody, it's time for a Requel pitch. Not in the car today. Um, I've been home for a little while because of some health related things. So yeah, chilling at the house. So I just watched. I'll get right into it. This podcast. We take a property and we talk about, hey, if I was in charge, what would I do with it? And this was not a super long, but it's more of a discussion because I just watched the Hellboy, The Crooked Man. It dropped on Hulu, and I've been wanting to see it for a while, um, but hadn't got around to it yet because it didn't get released in theaters here in the States and didn't get a physical release yet. And the discussion is like, this is our third Hellboy reboot. And what should be done with this property? Now, I know that we'll start back the first Hellboy movie with Ron Perlman, directed by Del Toro, was based off a book, and the second one was more of an original kind of. The Golden Army was more of like Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy, more so than Mike Mignola's. They only got the kind of like B grade horror Hellboy film with um, directed by Alan Taylor, and it starred David Harbour, which I like David Harbour, and it had its points that were good, but it had some stuff that was a little like out there, and I feel that with each film, like with that film, it's like we're being dropped in a world and we're not really learning about the world. You know, in the first Hellboy film, we have the new BPRD agent coming in, and that's kind of our in. So when we get to the sequel, we don't really need the in as much. And there's been arguments about the tone of the films in the comics, right? Now, I have read The Crooked Man. I actually read it when I thought this film was about to be released, and then I learned that on the day it was supposed to be released, it was being put on video on demand. Um, and I didn't do the video on demand just because I don't want to pay $20 if I'm watching it by myself. Um, you know, so I would rather if it was me and my buddy Brian, or Jania was interested, and we got a couple people together, then I feel like it's worth it. Um, but anyways, so the Crooked Man movie, the newest one, directed by Brian Taylor of the Nevin Taylor group, who in the early 2000s did Crank, The Second Ghost Rider, and something else I can't think of. Um, but it's not bad, okay? And it follows the comic almost too well, because even in the comic, there's parts where I'm like, you could develop this story and really help flesh it out and make it more understanding for a casual viewer of movies or stories compared to someone reading these books, because there's a lot to be like, hey, what's going on? And I feel that what this proves is that you can do Hellboy on a smaller budget and make it effective, okay? And the tone and visualization of this feels to me like a Netflix series. And I put out Netflix directly because it has some of the things that make me feel, Netflix had done recently Lock and Key that started well, then kind of at the end. Um, Let me think what else. Hold on. Why am I drawing a blank? Um, the Dead Boy Detectives, which had its ups and downs. Trying to think of some more of its supernatural aspects. Sandman, which was really good, and then kind of filtered in the end. Has one more season coming, so we'll see how that goes. But it feels very much in that vein. But I feel like maybe that's where we need to put Hellboy, because this feels like I'm watching like an episode of that, where it feels like a movie, but so much more like these limited series and stuff like that are designed more like movie television, that you could make this, probably put some more into it, a 2 or 3 episode of a Hellboy series, because we could have established the world. Because it's always interesting in each film where we're learning about Hellboy and that the world knows about Hellboy, compared to before when Hellboy was such a big secret. And I really feel like I'm digging the dude as Hellboy so far. I'm still thinking back, like, okay, do I really love him? So I dig him, and I don't know if I'm like, oh my gosh, he was so great. Yeah, I got to think on it more. But I feel like with Hellboy, this is the way to go. A series, so we can flesh out the world, the character, have the action, and then we have so many Hellboy stories that are one shots or one two shots. I feel like that's where to go with this property, with the comics, and try that for a while and build the fan base back up. Then diminishing returns on films. There were the animated films they did that were really well done, that I enjoyed, that I recommend anyone checking out. If you are a library user, they were on Hoopla to borrow digitally so that you could watch them. So I do recommend checking those out. But as far as Hellboy goes, I really think that this type of production quality as a TV series in a continual series show is the way to go. Because this is high enough. It's just right there where it feels more than a movie. Or, I mean, more than like a fan film or a low budget movie, but it doesn't feel like the type of movie, like cinematic experience. But if this was on television, you would not really complain about it. So that's kind of my thoughts. What's yours? Drop me a line in the comments. Send me an email, jtypatrick.com. I hope you guys are doing great. Looking for a great discussion. Check you later.